Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Nerdicus Dave, joined by Lysa Penrose today. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. It's both an exciting and anxiety ridden week for me. So it's hard to tell which emotion is which. It's nice to take a break. I have my coffee. I just chat with a friend.
Well, awesome. It's awesome to have you on. And you used to be way cooler because you were from New Jersey, and then you abandoned us.
I did downgrade.
I have abandonment issues from that, but other than I forgive you, because you're
Jersey
still
Shire for life.
yeah, because you're still an awesome person. But I saw that you were doing a Kickstarter, so I reached down. I was like, hey, we got to have you back on so you can talk about it. And it's not directly game related, but I feel like it's game adjacent, or at least
Mhm,
adjacent to many of our hearts. Uh,
mhm.
do you want to tell us about that a little bit, and also yourself and the other things you're involved in? Because there's a lot I know.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh gosh, okay. It was a specific question, and then it became a very broad question.
Can of
Um,
worms.
I will start with just a very brief introduction that folks in the community, especially watching the Nerdarchy channel, might best know me as a game designer and also the brand manager for Dungeon Masters Guild, which is a marketplace where people can publish their own D&D 5e stuff under a different license than the open game license. But I'm folks might also know me because I'm a very publicly witchy person in the community. Maybe later we can talk about the fun convention I threw that was both witchy and TTRPG stuff, like crossed over. But my Kickstarter is an Oracle deck that I created, which is very similar to, say, like a tarot deck, which folks are maybe more familiar with. But my Oracle deck, rather than the meanings of the cards that are all the same for the tarot deck, is 44 cards based on the liminal spaces between big emotions. So, not like anger or sadness or joy, but rather like more complex little feelings that live between them, like that feeling when you lose the keys that were just in your hands, and it's like frustration and embarrassment, and all mixed into one, or that feeling when you have a dream where you're flying and you wake up remembering how to fly. I feel like everyone has had that, and it's like a few minutes of this very particular feeling. So all of them are like that feeling when, and then it lists like this long, complicated sentence that hopefully feels familiar to people.
So, are you indeed a good witch or a bad witch?
I don't think anyone is 100% either, but if I were to pick a side, I'm definitely a good witch, I think. Don't throw water at me.
Yeah. I 100% you agree you would be a good witch as well. How did you get into witchy things?
Gosh, I feel like I had a memory recently where it was like way before this, but I don't remember it. So I don't know why I brought it up. The story I typically tell is that when I was in middle school, all of the cool kids would go to Chili's on Friday nights. And I don't know if it is like a law or something, but there seems to always be a Barnes and Noble next to a Chili's. And people would go there while they waited for their little table buzzer things to go off. No one ever invited me to Chili's. So I would just kind of hang out in Barnes and Noble by myself. And I wandered out of the bounds of the young adult section because I'd read all of the spines of those books a million times. And I found the New Age section and their tarot decks and all these. It's probably was the same experience as someone walking into like a fantasy section or seeing like D&D books for the first time. It just opened up this magical, cool world to me. And so as a middle schooler, I delved pretty deep into, at that time, Wiccanism and paganism, because that was the only exposure I had to witchcraft. And that sort of sparked my interest. So it's been a while. Yeah.
Yeah, I really noticed when I started doing live chats, like the rise of paganism,
Mhm.
and like a lot of my family tends to be religious, where I'm very agnostic or atheist. I kind of swing back and forth between the two, and aggressively so. Um, but I do find also that a lot of people kind of have get interested in those things through gaming and D&D. It kind of opens their eyes to a different world, and they want to start exploring that more, incorporating into their games, and kind of expands our knowledge base. But for you, that's definitely not the case, because I know you came to gaming later in life.
Yeah, it wasn't until sort of like my mid 20s where I mean, I guess probably around the same time, middle school and high school, I had heard of D&D and it appealed to me, but it seemed way too complicated to learn on my own and I didn't know anyone who played at the time. But it wasn't until later in life that I revisited it. And Meetup was a thing and I went to my friendly local game store. But I've found, so when I first kind of came out of the broom closet is the phrase that folks use. I was streaming and doing game stuff and D&D stuff, and I wanted to do like a tarot Tuesday where I would get more in depth into the tarot card meetings and learn myself, and people would watch and learn with me. And I remember having this whole conversation with my friend Jess of like, all the people who follow me are gamers. Are they going to even care about this side of my life? Are they going to find it
Yeah.
so annoying that I'm like delving into this different thing? And Jess was really, really encouraging. And it turns out, just like you said, there's so much crossover between the two communities. I think because of all the reasons you stated. And also, I feel like both communities attract a lot of folks who feel like they're misfits in society at large. And so there's that appeal there.
I would always encourage someone to, pursue and follow their heart when it comes to that stuff anyway. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you need to do it because you like doing it, not because other people will like it. Because at the end of the day, like, if you don't enjoy it, other people probably won't either, or that's going to come through. So
Mm-hmm.
to me, it totally makes sense. And thankfully, your friend encouraged you to do it anyway. And now you got to merge those worlds together. Like, you even talked about doing a virtual convention where they kind of collide.
Yeah, it was called Arcana, Con. Fun pun there. And it was for my birthday. And basically, it was like I live in this weird intersection of witchcraft and tabletop. I feel like there's other people who live there too. We just don't necessarily realize it. So I just want to, for my birthday, first of all, fundraise for Bat Conservation International, which the convention did, but also just listen to a bunch of conversations around topics that I want to hear about. So things like magic systems and TTRPG or tarot based games, that sort of thing. And so I created like my dream list of panels and sent a form out for people to apply to be in the panels, and there was a bunch of interest. So that was a really, really fun weekend where I think I spoke or moderated on like one or two things, but mostly got to chill and produce and just listen to these really cool magical conversations, which are all on my YouTube, by the way. Lysa Penrose, if folks want to listen to the VODs.
So that's pretty awesome, and doing good things for bats. Which it kind of makes me think of, like, my wife is always like, "Can we get this for a pet? Can we get that for a pet?" And I'm always googling and be like, "No, hun, that will tear your face off. No, hun, that will give you chlamydia. No, hun, it's not good for the animal." Bats are interesting, and they actually make good pets, but you
Really?
shorten their lifespan. So
Oh,
that's not good for the bat.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Oh, you've looked into bat pets? Oh, they're so cute. Their little faces.
they are. They're
Um,
sky puppies.
yeah, yeah, basically little sky pups.
Yeah. Is it the Philippines where they have the giant ones that are like as big as a person?
Oh gosh, that's scary. But there's also the teeny tiny like
Oh
Himalayan or
yes.
Honduran white
Yeah.
bats
Yeah.
that are like little cotton balls with little yellow noses.
Yes. They run the gambit, and but even the big ones, like, their size is kind of horrifying, but they still look like big sky puppies. So
They do, but if they saw one in person, I would probably run.
yeah, especially if you don't know what that is right away, you're like, "Oh my
Yeah.
god, it's Dracula. I'm going to
Yeah.
die."
Yeah, it's it makes you realize where all like the scary stories and legends and stuff that we hear about probably came from. Probably someone probably saw a real life aminal, but it was terrifying.
So has the tarot card and omen card, like, first of all, what's the difference between the omen card and the tarot card? per
It's
se?
Oracle and
Oracle,
tarot
sorry.
decks. Yeah, no problem. So tarot decks are cards that pretty much always follow the same structure. There's maybe different styles and traditions of the decks, but they typically have the same meaning. There is some flexibility. Some decks switch stuff around a little bit, but you'll have your major arcana, which are sort of the major life events and life wisdoms, and then your minor arcana, which are smaller wisdoms. I still feel pretty impactful, but they're always like the same meanings, but the art and style of symbolism might differ. Oracle decks are pretty much whatever you want them to be, but they can be used in the same way as like shuffling a deck, picking a card, and looking for some guidance. But it can be any number of cards, it can be any theme, and the cards can have whatever meaning the creator wants to have. So a lot more flexibility. And I'm very much like I need for when I was learning tarot, I approached it at first as I need to get every single meaning of the card right. It's what's in the book, and there's a right or wrong answer. And in the Tarot Tuesday series I mentioned, I learned that that is not the case, and I learned a lot to trust my intuition. So that before Lysa, would never do an oracle deck. It was like way too like confusing, and like if they're all different, then I didn't trust my intuition enough to feel like I could even use them. And so that whole Tarot Tuesday series that I did for about like a year, with the community, it was so cool. Not only taught me tarot, but really taught me to trust myself a lot more. And so this Oracle deck has 44 cards, and has that feelings theme that I talked about. And so I also had always wanted to create a tarot deck or oracle deck, but I felt like I'm an artist, but I'm not an illustrator. I can't really draw. That's not one of my talents. And so I realized I could do digital collage, which I actually really love, I just like dove right in and had like a really intense week where I was making a bunch of cards every day. So much so my brain hurt and I wasn't sleeping, but you get into that creative fervor. And when I started doing the collage and finding images online that I could use for something published for other people to use, purchase and use as well, I found that a lot of the imagery was a lot of ballerinas specifically, a lot of models and dancers. So everyone kind of had the same body type, even if I was finding some maybe cultural diversity. And I wanted to have like different body types in there. I wanted different disabilities represented. I wanted it to be more representative of the world, or at least my world and my community. So I posted online, I wonder like that I was doing this project, and I wonder if anyone would be willing to let me use their pictures. And the TTRPG community like came out to represent. I created a form and they sent in their pictures. And there were some folks who are actually very shy about their physical appearance, who purposely took pictures of themselves because they wanted to be representative of different groups or things that, so like I had some folks who are like, well, I'm very self-conscious of my appearance, but I want to make sure fat people are represented, or I'm self-conscious, but I use a cane and I want to make sure visible disability is represented as well. And so I got to take these pictures, and then one person I put on top of like a giant mushroom surrounded by other like purple and pink like Feywild mushrooms, and a giant deer is next to them. And I think that's like the feeling when you make a connection with an animal and now you're packing all your things because you're a druid and you live in the forest now. And she was so excited. She felt like a fairy princess in that picture. So and she has a dog. And so I always think of like her and her dog, which is why I chose that card meaning for her.
Uh-huh.
And so being able to like take someone from my community who will be a familiar face for people was really nice, to be able to represent more than what's available in typical stock imagery was very nice, but also to make my friend feel as awesome and as amazing as I see them, extra bonus, I think.
Does do you have did you have to write like a kind of like a oracle guide for your deck? Do they need more specific guidance if like I guess the creator has a specific intent where tarot is kind of like standardized. Like I see like one is for like lawful people and the other is for people of pure chaos.
It feels a little bit like that. Uh like if we had to give them alignments for sure. Um, I think it probably varies for Oracle decks. Some people really like to tell the story of each card. I am the one thing I still have to work on is the writing for the guidebook. But I've made a conscious decision that instead of writing a page for each card, which is what people would typically do, or maybe they would write some keywords for each card, instead of that, I want to write a short guidebook about how to tap into your intuition and use that to figure out what the cards mean to you. Just because that's very much what I'm all about as a mostly good witch. Um, Empowering people to trust themselves and live authentically.
So so that's interesting. So you decided to go with the route of just like guidance and like how to use
Yeah.
oracle decks in general instead of just this one. So to have a
Well,
more utility to it.
yeah, I mean, I guess Oracle decks in general, general guidance for how to use this deck. Well, I might give like a couple examples.
Yeah.
Like I might say, like here is the keys example, which you lost the keys that were just in your hand, and the image of it is a cat in like lava, so like in hell with the keys in its mouth, like it stole the keys and took them to hell. But so you lose your keys that were just in your hand. And so my guidebook might say, like, think about when that has happened to you and what emotions that brings up. And then apply those emotions and feelings to a situation that you're asking about. So I'm trying to think. It might be, oh my God, think of an example, Lisa. Think of any literal word. Um, it might be that you are like, well, I have this opportunity. Should I go for it? And you draw a card and it's telling you about keys. And so it's not like literally you've just lost your keys. I wouldn't interpret it that way. But I might interpret it, well, I might interpret it in two ways. One could
These
be,
open things or keep things closed, right? So
yeah. So it could be you maybe you're picking up on is the key specifically and what the key is as a symbol. Maybe what speaks to you is that you're losing the keys that were just in your hands. Are you worried about this opportunity falling through your fingers? Is like a FOMO influencing your decision? Or are you picking up on the feelings of like frustration and embarrassment specifically in the card? And what does that say about your current situation or about the situation you're considering? So there's a lot of different ways that you can use this deck. It really is more than like any other deck that I can think of about tapping into emotions and your intuition and trusting those. It's the theme of the whole deck, not just the
so
way to interpret.
so lava cat and keys is very specific. Is that an actual card?
Yeah. It's there's like a cat and it's on a lava flow and it's just carrying your keys in its mouth.
Uh,
There's multiple. You can tell I'm a
yeah.
cat person, I think, because there's multiple cats in this deck, but no
I
dogs.
feel like if I would have made that card, it would have involved someone walking around looking for their cell phone with it in their hand or while talking on it.
Yes. There's another one that's when you find your glasses and they were on your head the whole time. And it's a fun
Yeah.
rainbow card of this woman who has her glasses on her head. But then I've also put like a little car, a telephone. I just put like
Yeah.
all this stuff on her head in rainbow colors.
Oh, that's great.
Someone in chat, Shalendor, said a lost idea. That could be an interpretation of the card as well.
So have tarot cards or oracle decks made their way into your gaming life as far as when you run games?
I'd say the closest would be Curse of Strahd, and that was the Taroka deck, of course, um, uh, guiding how the rest of the campaign or game would go. But I haven't personally. I tarot cards are such a part of my daily life. It shocks me that they haven't become a part of like a character or I've used them to influence a game before. I've used magic cards,
Yeah.
like Magic the Gathering cards to come up with like campaign ideas and monster ideas. So I feel like you could do the same with a tarot deck that has amazing art. In fact, there's one deck called the Blood Moon Tarot by Sam Gway, who I think has done Magic the Gathering art as well. But the artwork in that is so illustrative and detailed. And I want there to be like a storybook of
Yeah.
that deck because you're like, what is this character? Why do they have eyeballs on their arm? And like that sort of thing. So I feel like you could just draw a card and that card could become an NPC or something.
Future collab, possibly.
Maybe I would just fall over and perish happy.
We have to start a campaign to make that happen. Not you falling
Yeah.
over and perishing happy, but live a very long and prosperous life and making lots of cool things for
Mhm.
sure. We had one player. We weren't even playing Ravenloft. They asked the gym, like, can I use it to work a deck? And the GM was like, sure, whatever. And then they would use it to make like all the major decisions for their character in the game.
Oh, like they're like, wait, did they do that as a player or as a character too?
Yes.
Cool. Wait, was it
Both.
cool? What?
They didn't play for it with us for. They stopped playing with us after that, soon after that. So we didn't really get to see the effect. But yes, they were starting to make like in-game decisions based on what cards they drew. Which it was a couple years ago, and if I recall correctly, it always made it interesting. I'm not so
Huh?
sure that it made it better, but it did make it interesting. But that's the nature of the game anyway.
Yeah,
Um,
it would be cool to be like a divination. I mean, it feels kind of obvious, but also
yeah.
like to be a divination wizard who uses a Taroka deck and to try to like very much incorporate that as a prop and a role playing tool.
I think so, absolutely. I mean, that's why I imagine that's why they did it with Curse of Strahd,
Yeah.
and people seem to definitely like that. So so how did you go from like I take it was kind of like a fun project to all right, I'm gonna make this and put it on Kickstarter and sell it to people.
Yeah. Gosh, it started out as in the course of one day, and it was in the evening that I posted that I had some Oracle deck ideas. So it probably was more like 8 hours because I stayed up all night.
Uh,
I went from, I kind of would like to make an Oracle deck. Which of these three ideas sound most interesting to you? To, I'm going to just make like one card just to like as a proof of concept. To, okay, well, now I have an idea for another card. So I'm going to make this one. And then I'm up all night and I've made like four cards. And from that night on, I was like, every card I get inspires me to make another card. Every time, I think the next day I asked for photos from people and people started submitting immediately. So every time I saw like a particular picture from someone, it would inspire me so much, or like it's a person I know well and I knew like, oh, this is what feeling they represent. And so it just kind of became this snowball of inspiration, which is the best type of snowball, I think. And by the end of the week, I think it was like a week and a half I took of like really intense creation, making all of these cards. And by the time I was done, I knew I wanted to make it available to folks somehow. My options were that I could do like a really small print run, that I could take pre-orders, that I could kickstart. And I actually put it, I ask the community for their input like all the time on everything. And so people said they would like to kickstart. It was between that and pre-ordering. But they were basically like, we want to support this no matter what. And so the only thing holding me back from Kickstarter was that I'm terrified of the idea of kickstarting. It just seems so
Yeah.
intimidating, but I figured I'll just do my first one. This is a pretty, like, this can be a really simple one. Like, basically one reward tier, you get the deck. I don't know if I at the time I didn't know if I wanted to do stretch goals. I do have stretch goals now, which are just simple turning the cards into stickers. And so I felt like if I'm going to do a Kickstarter, this is a nice simple one, and let's just see how it goes. And now I'm here biting my nails.
I
We're
mean,
almost 75% funded though, so I'm feeling pretty good, but still anxious.
at this point, you've been featured in a lot of Kickstarters.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
And
I've
this is
been
your
a stretch
first
goal for
one.
a lot of Kickstarters, but this is my first one I'm running.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ah.
I think like based on the math, I think the way most Kickstarters work is like you get a third of your funding in the first 2 days, a third in the middle, and a third on your last two. So from there you
Mhm.
can kind of calculate how you're doing, and also like watching the follow number. That's one of the things that I became obsessed with, because it's like the bigger that follow number means that the bigger those last like 48 hours are going to be.
Oh, I haven't even checked my follow number.
Yeah,
That's
great.
something
Because
new for me to obsess over. But if that's how things go, I think I'm
yeah,
like 1% away from 2/3 funded. So then I'm okay. That makes me feel better.
yeah.
It's hard, especially when it's your first one. It's hard to trust that the last couple days will deliver that much. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm still, one thing is I'm waiting on my factory samples, which I'm so excited about. I mean, you produced a book, so maybe you have the same feelings, or maybe not. I'm a paper stock nerd.
Yes.
Even before I got into D&D and like RPG books and stuff, I did production as part of my many hats I wore for the restaurant company I worked for. So I love all those aspects of production specifications. Now everyone stops watching because I'm talking about paper stock.
No, like that stuff. Actually, so that stuff was like the terrifying part for me,
Really?
because I'm like, yeah, because I have to look at this stuff. I'm like, I'm gonna mess it up, and if I miss something and
Oh,
it's wrong, so
yeah.
yeah, getting the proofs, that was like
Yeah.
so scary. I'm like, why am I
Yeah.
doing this?
But it can make the
Uh,
difference. It's how people are experiencing the product as an object, what things feel
yeah,
like when they touch them. I'm not going to say what book, but there was a really, really popular Kickstarted book. It wasn't yours, that I got, where I was so excited to get it. And then I touched the paper of the pages and
yeah.
I was like, blah. And I closed it and I was like, we'll look at it later.
I
It felt
will
like
say,
squeaky.
yeah, I will say, like the book, like the company that we went with, like I felt confident because like I knew a lot of the other big companies were using them, like Cobalt Press
Okay.
and Nord
Good.
Games.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so and I think Frog Out Games. So like I've handled all of their books. So like the tactile anyway, like I knew, like I liked those, and
Yeah.
that was part of like our decision process as well, because you know like you very well know, like a lot of stuff you're just like figuring it out as you go along, and
Mm-hmm.
the parts you don't know, especially like if you're running your first Kickstarter now, so like that is a whole experience right there.
Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. So I'm distracted because someone in chat said, have you heard of stone paper made of polymer and minerals? Does it feel like cool to touch the way stones do? That's really cool.
That,
Um,
and is it also really heavy?
oh
Like,
yeah, good point. I imagine like how do they I'm gonna look that up later.
I have
Uh,
too. Now I need to know about stone paper.
yeah. Are you looking that up now?
Uh,
As if you're looking it up now, I'll talk about the specs for my cards, which I really want to geek out about.
okay,
So the
hit
feel
us.
of the cards is like a satin matte, which has almost sort of like the same feel as when you touch like a rose petal, not quite a soft touch lamination, which would make shuffling difficult, but the cards will feel really nice. And what I'm really excited about is that the edges of the cards are going to be this like bright turquoise color, but with glitter in them, so that when you turn the cards to the side, it's like sparkly, which I feel like is very much the vibe of this deck. It's very like sort of prismatic holographic colors, color scheme. So yeah, I'm excited about that. Oh, Good Times is letting us know. Good Times Bad Times says it's very smooth, not heavy, and it's waterproof.
Yeah, it's
Cool.
also biodegradable, and they recycle it, make it from recycled stone and plastic.
That's cool.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, maybe in the future we'll all be writing on stone tablets again, but
yeah,
the
essentially,
smooth stone
yeah.
paper.
But also, recyclable is very much a misnomer. Like when you start to really delve into that, you go, "Oh,
Oh, really?
recyclable is not nearly as recyclable as you think."
Oh.
Like especially like your like household goods and stuff. It's like
Yeah,
most of
I've heard
that
a lot
just
of
ends
stuff
up in
where
a
a lot,
dump.
yeah, that I've heard that too.
Uh, it's just to make people feel good, like they're doing something.
Oh my
But that
gosh,
could
this
be
is like
that's
a
a whole
this
thing I
that's
could get
that's a
into.
whole other conversation that we can have that is very depressing, but at the same time is something people don't want to look at.
Yeah,
So it's important to talk about, but maybe I don't know. This is that would
maybe
be what a
maybe
tangent for
stone
today.
paper will be the solution.
Yeah.
I kind of want to make a book about dwarves with stone paper now.
That oh no. Okay. All
Mm,
right. I'm gonna say what I was gonna say, but I didn't mean it as a pun.
okay.
I was gonna say that would rock.
Yeah.
But then mid sentence, I realized it was a pun and I got very
I
furious
feel
with
like
myself.
all of that should go right on the title somehow, right on the page. Like a book about dwarves printed on stone paper. That totally rocks. I don't know, just workshopping some things here.
Nice.
Yeah. So, what are some of the other projects you're working on? You said because before we even got started, you're like, I'm working on a bunch of stuff, and it's not even really D&D related or gaming related.
Yeah, I mean, goodness. Okay. So another reason I wanted to kickstart the Oracle deck was because it would allow me to do a slightly larger run. And I wanted to be able to have inventory of the Oracle decks because I have this other venture called Tula of Swords, a play off of my middle name, Tula, and also the Two of Swords in tarot. Um, and I wanted, I've been gearing up to vend this spooky season at various pop-ups that I've been arranging, and there was like a neighborhood like marketplace yard sale, and I'm doing a night market in my town, and I might be doing the farmers market leading up to the holidays, and so I sell a bunch of tarot zines that I write, which have like tarot spreads in them. And there's one called Zine of Shadows, which is has tarot spreads, but more of a general introduction for beginner witches. And so I want to have that in my Oracle deck. That was the original plan. But then, like, swiftly in the midst of all of this stuff organizing and happening, I've always wondered, where do people who sell crystals get their crystals?
Yeah.
Because I would love to sell crystals. I've always, like, even when I was like a little kid, I was very into like rocks and stones. And I found out and then immediately was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to become a crystal seller, which, if you've been following me for the past couple weeks, I am now doing. And so I have a night market. If you're in the Burien, Washington or Seattle, Washington area, there's a night market at Arts Aglow in Burien where I am going to be slinging crystals and tarot zines. I'm going to be dressed up as a green fairy witch. I have these giant wings that look like green leaves. I'll be all dressed up with my lantern and everything because it's going to be after dark. And I'm so nervous for that. I don't know why, because I've like run in New Jersey when I was running Epic Adventures. I've spoken in front of a room of like 100 people, basically being like the arch DM of the event and stuff. But this is a new type of public interaction, so I'm a little nervous.
I'm sure you were nervous the first time you did that too. I mean, this is all a new thing for you. So that's a
Yeah.
reasonable thing to be.
Yeah, new things are scary the first time.
So tell me about this night market. This sounds like fun, and it also
Oh
sounds
my
like something that
gosh.
should probably be in my D&D game.
It should be in your D&D game. It sounds so cool. Okay. So I don't know what it's going to look like this year because a little bit different because we're not kind of, we are still in pandemic times.
Yes.
I know they've moved it to a bigger venue so people can be more spread out. So I'll talk about what it has been in past years. It's an annual event. It is an art and light festival called Arts Aglow. And they do glowing art installations throughout the town. So imagine like there's one park that has lots of trees. And so they wrap all the trees in lights, and then they have light lit statues and stuff that they install throughout the park. And so people are encouraged to dress up. I've seen pictures of like, it looks like a Halloween parade where people are all in costumes. Some people have built like giant multi-person marionette puppets of like dragons and stuff. And everyone makes and carries their own lanterns. And they go and they check out these art exhibits. And this is the first year they're introducing a night market, which they said they're going to have by the town's movie wall, where they're going to be projecting cool light stuff. They're going to paint the street that it's on with glow in the dark paint. And the night market will be set up there, and we're all like lighting our booths ourselves. So I have this wooden arch that I've built that has like blue flowers intertwined in it, and I encircled it with twinkle lights, battery powered twinkle lights that I'll have going and stuff. It is such a magical sounding event that would make a great inspiration for a D&D market, I think.
So the night market was this something that was going to happen you got involved with, or are you part of the organizing? Because I can see either of them.
For sure. This particular one is the town does every year. And they did a call out for vendors. And because I've applied to be in my town's farmers market later this year, they reached out to me. And I was like, oh, this is 100% my vibe. I'm doing it. Try to stop me. So this one, I'm just getting
me a booth or not.
Yeah,
I'm showing up.
Yeah, I am. I will sell crystals and tarot zines from my trunk. But I am actually organizing a Halloween market in October. So October's every Saturday, I'm going to be doing a pop-up at Friday afternoon tea. If you're in TTRPG and you like tea, you've probably heard of Friday. She does a lot of geeky inspired teas, including ones for RPG classes. So like the Druid's Blend, Sorcerer's Blend, that sort of thing. And so I'm popping up Saturdays at her shop. And then the last Saturday, so October 30th, the day before Halloween, I've organized a witches market. We're calling it the Pumpkin Chai Market since it's outside the tea shop.
Oh, nice.
And me and a few other witchy friends who make jewelry and sell crystals and stuff are going to be setting up tiny booths outside of the shop. So you can come get your pumpkin chai and also magical things to make you feel extra fantastic on Halloween.
Many of the folks in my Saturday morning group that's where they get their tea. I only really drink tea when I'm sick. And
she has really good ones for that too.
yeah. The rest of the time, I'm pretty much a coffee person.
Mm-hmm. That's valid.
Yeah.
I'm team both coffee and tea. Coffee in the morning, tea throughout the day.
Yeah. That might even be a better way to go. I just like whenever you go to the doctors and you get a questionnaire and they're like, kind of like, how many cups of coffee do you have? I'm like, crossing out cups and replacing it with pots. So it's probably not great.
Yeah.
So we kind of mentioned that you've been featured on a lot of Kickstarters as stretch goals. So what kind of stuff have you been up to in RPG world?
Goodness. Well, I am writing. There's a game that I'm working on that I don't feel like I'll just say I've alluded to it. So I am working on a ghost game, and I can talk about it a little bit because I have talked about it. I don't know why I feel so secretive about it.
Yeah.
I'm working on my own game that is about ghosts. It's about lonely ghosts who live in this. So in my game's world, ghosts, both like the living can't see them, but also ghosts can't see each other. So you're basically like living for the rest of time super lonely, but you're able to send messages to other ghosts, or when living humans hold seances, there's a chance you can interact with a ghost. so the whole game, you're like writing these like notes and memories and almost sort of building your character as you go, based off of these prompts that you give each other. And then there's seance phases where you actually get to you spend points to get like little tidbits from people. And you start to build this idea of what this other ghost is and build this like connection of like stretched out hands, fingers just touching sort of feeling with these other ghosts. It feels like a seance the whole game. It's very much played in silence, maybe with some spooky ambiance music playing, because you're mostly writing, except during those ritual like seance phases. So I'm working on that game. I had written it and then I kind of put it on a shelf for a while and play tested it with some folks. And I think I want to rewrite the game. Even after all that playtest stuff, because after some time has passed, I've come up with some other ideas. So I don't know when that one will come out. It's very much like a passion project. So on my timeline. Aside from that, I've been trying to get into writing for some games that aren't Dungeons and Dragons, because most of my work has been Dungeons and Dragons, but I love so many different games. And so I am doing a little bit of adventure writing for Avatar as well.
Yeah, we actually just did wrote for our first non D&D game ourselves.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so we were one of the stretch goals on Vast Grim, which is a sci-fi horror kind of like OSR game. And we were asked to write on that. So it was kind of a cool experience as well. I mean, we've always like tried to mix in other games with our D&D. Like at our core, we're probably D&D players, but we do like to dabble in other games as well. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and we've like we've been hinting on Twitter with some concept art at like an RPG that we're hoping to be able to launch early next year, that we started working on. That will not be D&D related at all.
Ooh.
So it's a big step for us. But also like we were like me and you were talking before we got started, and it's like having all your eggs in the Wizards of the Coast basket it can be fun, but it's also a little bit terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, I mean, Wizards of the Coast, or pretty much if you're doing all things related to just one company
That's not
and
yours.
that's not yours, you don't really
Yeah.
control it. It, like, from a career perspective, is kind of scary, right? Um, and, or just from an emotional perspective, to have both
Yeah.
your hobby and everything you do be tied to a brand that isn't one that you like control or own or anything, it's a lot. And so I've learned diversifying both my hobbies but also things that I do, um, makes me feel more comfortable and safe, diversifying, but also makes me feel like I'm a fuller person.
Yeah.
And I'm presenting myself as more of like the full person that I am. And that from an emotional perspective has been very healthy for me. And I think kind of inspires others to do the same, I've been told. And those, when people reach out to let me know that they feel like they can live more authentically, because of seeing me be very public about different aspects of my life, I find that very, very rewarding.
Yeah, like so our big move in 2019 was like, maybe we should do something that's not specific. It's still game related, but not D&D specific. And we're like, let's start an event company. That seems like a great idea.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Who, I can't wait till those after times.
Yeah, it'll
Actually
happen
see you at an
eventually.
event again. Yeah.
I
If
know.
if
Yeah.
everyone's good, God, be good, everybody, please.
Yeah. I mean, so me and the wife are going to trek out to Gen Con and see how that goes.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
mean, everybody in our orbit is vaccinated. So I feel like if you're vaccinated, more of the risk is to the people that aren't. So
Yeah.
when we get back, we'll get tested right away just to be on the safe side and for
Hmm.
everyone's peace of mind as well.
Yeah. Do
Um,
you know, I mean, I am only participating in Gen Con virtually. I'm doing a how to be a D&D designer panel.
okay.
But so I don't know what the in-person things are, but I feel like I don't know if they're requiring masks or for everybody? I
I
know they
don't
are for
actually
Arts Aglow.
know.
They are.
I don't know. I imagine they will, but we'll
Yeah.
see. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We'll look into it before we get there so we know what to expect. But
Hmm.
I mean, either way, we'll figure it out. It's some of our friends are still going, so many of our friends are not. It'll definitely be interesting to see how it goes this
Yeah.
year. Honestly, I thought PAX Unplugged was going to be my first event just because it's like local for us. But
Uh-huh.
I just went a little stir crazy, and it was like, you know what? In the last minute, we decided we would just drive out and get out of the state for a few days.
Hmm.
So we'll see how that goes.
Shall endorse. Dragon Con was bad for most artists this year. Yeah, I imagine
Yeah,
events are probably just going to be weird this
yeah,
year because like there's people. I imagine there's people who go, people who maybe try to avoid the vendor halls or artist alleys just because those usually are the most crowded places. The times are weird though. Everything's weird. Folks
yeah.
should support their favorite artists online and in their print shops and stuff. If you're not going to events, if you can, we'll shout
I
that out.
I know a lot of the artists have been hit hard and they've had to figure out like what they're going to do and try and compensate, and yeah, supporting them online is definitely a good way to go.
Yeah,
Uh,
for Tula of Swords, I wanted to find a way to support some of my favorite artists. So I also offer like fun witch themed stickers where I've commissioned artists and paid for rights to sell stickers of their art. So I have sticker sheets. One with NY Vinter is a Bat Witch themed, and another with Amber Sager or Rocket Orca is Goblin Witch themed. So that's me just trying to find excuses to commission art from people, basically.
nice. Did you say Rocket Orca?
Yeah, Rocket Orca.
So you're gonna have to elaborate because I
What?
think of the whale.
That's just their screen name. So you're gonna have to ask
Oh,
them for
okay.
the story. But they Amber is their name.
Okay.
And their whole artist thing is they draw the most adorable goblin art. So a bunch of goblin witches and a little goblin ghost. So cute.
In my mind, you said Rocket Orca, and I heard themed, and
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. And that immediately created a mental image of
yeah,
like an orca with like a rocket strapped to its
yeah.
back.
And orcas do not need rockets strapped to their backs. They are the worst animal on the planet.
That would make them too powerful.
It would. This morning, I showed my son a TikTok, and it is literally a dolphin jumping out of the water, and then the orca like jumps after it and like body slams it. Orcas are like terrible.
Dolphins are pretty mean too. I mean, if you're
Oh
a
yeah,
fish, dolphins are mean.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
Turns out
there's like
sharks were the good guys all along.
yeah.
But orcas have learned, and I think dolphins do the same thing. That if you flip a shark on its back, they're paralyzed.
Oh no!
And the orcas
They're
use
just shark tipping.
yeah, and the orcas use that as an opportunity to feast on them while they're tipped. Yeah.
Oh no, I feel so bad for sharks. They get such a bad rap, and they get tipped over by orcas.
Yeah. Like if a shark learns that a orca is in its hunting territory, they'll leave for like at least a year. They
Oh my
just don't come
gosh.
back.
Oh my gosh.
Marine
Oh.
biologists witnessed a pod of orcas slapping, I don't know if it was a stingray or a manta ray, into the air for like an hour and a half.
Oh,
And then
that's
they
just
just
for
left
fun
it.
at that point.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah, they didn't need it.
no.
They just left it after they were done.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Humans are pretty bad, but orcas are now number 2.
Well, it's the more intelligent an animal is, the worse they tend to be.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Because they need to focus that mental energy in a direction, and for some reason, none of us can do it for good.
Oh gosh, people who know me very, very well know that I'm pretty down on dolphins after a dolphin documentary that I watched.
Yeah.
But now you know what? I might be more down on orca whales than dolphins. And these are the animals that get like, because I mean, I was gonna say these are the animals that get a better reputation because of SeaWorld, but also other that's also not great. I recognize for a lot
Yeah,
of
yeah.
reasons, but the animals with good PR, they just have good
They
PR.
have good PR. They look cute. You know,
Yeah,
that's what it is. It's like they hide all this sinisterness underneath their cuteness.
yeah. It's animals that lie.
Yeah, they lie to us all. Like orcas will work together to swamp ice floes with seals on them. Now, I mean, this is them hunting, so that's not as
Yeah,
bad. You know, that's just how they
as
hunt.
like the
But
manta ray, they just like left it.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, they're the true king of the sea, and they're terrible. They're tyrants.
mhm.
Um, so when can people like find you on the interwebs? Because I'm pretty sure you do regular shows as well.
Oh, well, I've kind of been scaling back on the Twitch stuff that I do. But there's still, anyway, I guess there's still a few things. Um, Yeah. Mostly I'm doing DM's Guild Design Dash, which if folks aren't familiar with, you've got to watch. It is such a hoot. It's every first Friday of the month at 11 a.m. Pacific time on the D&D Twitch channel. And the VODs go up on the One Bookshelf YouTube as well. And it's a D&D design game show. So basically I get 3 D&D designers on DM's Guild, which I'm now realizing I need to totally make one of the nerdarchy guys come on or do like a nerdarchy show or something. But it's a little bit like Iron Chef where I reveal a secret theme and
Yeah,
then you have 15 minutes to design a D&D encounter.
sounds like
um
fun.
yeah, it's really wild. People you see their design faces, they're like frantically typing and they like look really intense. And then after that, everyone shares their designs. We come up during those 15 minutes, we come up with like a fake rubric. Or I mean, it's a real rubric, but it doesn't count for anything really. We come up with a scale with the chat, like 1 to 5 kobolds in a trench coat or something.
Yeah.
We come up with categories like scariest encounter or something, and then we as we go through the encounters, we ask my co-host and I ask some questions, and then we go through the rubric, and at the end everyone gets a superlative. So you are awarded scariest encounter of them all, that sort of thing. And then a poll goes up right after the show, and people vote for one of the designers to come back next time to defend their title or punish them to come back next time and suffer once more.
It does sound like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I did have a question about the Oracle decks that I meant to ask,
Oh,
and then
yeah, yeah.
I always sidetrack myself. 44, is that number significant?
I it just felt magical because I was doubling up the digits. I think
Uh,
I'd originally planned for it to be 45 because I was like, oh, okay, like multiples of 5. And then I was like, no, 44 feels special. And that's the amount of thought that went into that.
because I didn't know if like Oracle decks have a, you know, in general have a set number, or it's like whatever the person making the Oracle deck
Whatever
says.
the person making. I have seen Oracle decks that are bigger than tarot decks, like
Uh,
90 cards or something. I've seen Oracle decks that are as few as like 20 to 30 cards. I knew I didn't want to go larger than a tarot deck, simply because I have really tiny hands. So shuffling cards, I need to be able to riffle shuffle a deck to guarantee that I'm going to be using it regularly. And I knew a larger deck I would not be able to. And so that was important. My deck is also poker sized cards, again, because they're small enough that anyone can shuffle them, hopefully.
what is the number for tarot deck cards?
78, I believe it is.
So, so is there any rivalries between tarot and Oracle deckers?
Maybe. I mean, I know. So
That could
I
be a
used to
game
be,
into itself.
yeah, that would be sort of fun. Oh, because
Card
like,
wars.
yeah, to have or have like that be like different classes or something. I know this is like totally unrelated, but I am also
Yeah.
very into fiber art. So I like to pretend there's a rivalry between knitters and crocheters.
Okay,
Because
nice.
I'm a knitter and I
Yeah.
like, for whatever reason, I don't vibe with crochet, although I don't tell anybody, but I'm very impressed with some crocheters.
Yeah.
But I like to pretend they're my nemesis. So I would love that, like a fake rivalry, a gentle fake rivalry.
I mean, both of those things sound like a great basis for a tabletop game.
Yes, I mean, fiber art, you could have knitters, you could have crocheters, you could have spinners. There's a lot there.
And many of
Oh, that
them use sharp, pointy implements. So,
yeah. Yeah, or like hook, aren't there like hooked weapons too? I think so crocheters are there too. That'd be
yeah.
fun to do like a grandma game where the classes are different fiber art
Oh
things.
no, Grandma Gang Wars.
Yeah. Yeah. There is the Oba-chan game, which is magical grandmas. But they don't have fiber art classes. So I think this has to become a thing, might become a thing, might yoink that idea.
It's all yours. I'm fairly certain I'm not going to do anything with it, but it is fun to like speculate and think about for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Just give us credit for helping come up with the idea.
Absolutely.
What do you? So you said you like knitting. What do you like to knit?
I mean, I like to knit a lot of things. I'd say if there was one object I like to knit the most, it's hats.
Yeah.
Because they can be a very simple hat. It can be a very complicated hat with lots of cables. You can knit a hat in a day if you use really chunky yarn and big needles, or it can be a very like intricate, longer project. But even an intricate hat only takes so long because it's just a hat, not like a sweater or something.
So your witchiness is confirmed. I mean, you take a ball of yarn, a couple of wands, and given a couple of hours, you now have a hat.
Yeah, it's true. Confirmed.
That is definitely witchcraft.
Yeah.
uh, yeah. So you get a lot of variety of hobbies, and you mentioned the crystals. So do you just sell crystals as is? Do you make crystal jewelry?
A little bit of both. I started making electroforming, which do you know anything about electroforming? Because I
No.
will geek out about it because it's really cool. Okay.
Hit me.
So the short version of electroforming is you take your crystals, maybe some clay or something to create a base design, a copper wire. You paint the parts that you want to become to look like copper at the end with a conductive paint. So I use graphite paint. You put it into a solution with wires and run an electrical current through it, a low electrical current for probably like 12 hours. And then you get this beautiful, so the electrical current, what it does is it pulls the copper out of the solution. So at the end, you have like maybe like a crystal or something coated in like copper holding the crystal, or maybe like a ring with copper. And it's like such cool mad science. I love it. So I started doing that for necklaces, and then I've since pivoted to creating pendulums, which are a witch divination tool, just because I felt like there's a lot of jewelry out there, but not as many like really cool witchcraft tools. So I thought that fit with other stuff that I do better. So I do that, but I also just curate like really beautiful color collections of crystals. So and I release them every Monday on my Etsy shop, Tula of Swords, Tula. So this Monday I did sort of like a pink and blue and white Feywild collection. And I'm going to announce it later today, but I'll just mention it here. Next Monday's is going to be green, and that's the Enchanted Forest collection. And I basically now spend all of my free time, or I'm like able to multitask watching like crystal auctions, basically, like looking for just only the coolest stuff that I think is like really cool or especially beautiful, or like not just amethyst, which everybody knows, but there's a rare variety called pink amethyst that's a more opaque and sparkly and sometimes has like little like druzy crystal pockets in it. So I look for really special things to introduce people to new things.
So expertly curated.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it seems to be vibing, folks. That's very validating from an artist's perspective, or a curator's perspective, that folks get excited about the crystals as much as I do. You can see like kind of my collection a little bit over here.
Have you electrocuted yourself yet?
I'm always scared. I'm very good about turning off the electrical current before I touch the wires.
You also said it's a very low
Yeah,
voltage,
I like,
right?
I don't, it's a low voltage, so I think I would be fine, or I maybe wouldn't even feel it, but just in case, I always turn it off and wait a
Uh,
second first.
that definitely sounds like something I would try to get one of my brothers the guinea pig. He'd be like, "Hey, grab that for me." It sounds like a lot of fun. So how long have you been doing the crystal thing now?
The crystal thing, I'd say, I mean, launching collections just a few weeks ago. There were like crystal Pokemon that I wasn't planning on releasing yet, but I
Yeah,
posted a picture or a TikTok of them because I was so excited they'd arrived, and people immediately started being like, "How can I buy that?" and like DMing me and stuff. And so in a
yeah.
day, all of them were gone.
So they
And
never
so
even
I
got listed.
they never even got listed. And that was
Yeah.
my accidental launch of my crystals.
Uh,
And that was maybe about 3 weeks ago now. But I've been curating collections in the background for a little longer than that. And electroforming started a little bit before that as well.
nice. Are you
Mhm.
ever gonna start up like a witch Bible study?
Oh, Bible study? What would that be?
I don't know. I mean, I'm just using the word Bible for as a word, not as the Bible, but
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I have a Discord group,
yeah.
which I don't post. It's a very also like, I want it to be a very safe community, so I don't post the link publicly. But almost everyone who messages me to join, just tell me a bit about yourself, and I let them in. But I have this little witchy group, and we do a witchy Wednesdays where we meet and we talk about particular topics. And sometimes we do like spell workshops where people bring ideas for spells or spells they're working on, and we chat about them, or we might talk about, I don't know, crystals one day, or spell candles another day. And so I guess that's kind of like that, if that's what you mean.
I'm just, I'm not into, like I said, I'm not particularly into religion myself, but I'm kind of
Mhm.
curious, you know, the workings and what other people kind of do with it. So we're up on the hour mark, and I know you're a super busy
It went by so
person.
fast.
It always goes by so fast. Uh, Final thoughts before we head on out?
No, the thing that is so important to me as a part of witchcraft is that it is just you coming into your power and feeling empowered and trusting yourself. And so, my final thought is just that I am wishing that energy out to everybody watching.
Awesome. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, folks. Go check out Lysa Penrose. There will be links in the description. Check out the Kickstarter as well. And until next time, stay nerdy.